Nerdy is defined as someone characterized by an obsessive interest in something. Xbox, Marvel, technology, D&D, Lord of the Rings, escape rooms, Pokemon, Funko Pop, Star Wars, PlayStation, comic books, Magic the Gathering, Nintendo, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. All of that is Tech D Rob, host of the Nerd News Podcast, your source for everything nerdy.
I realize you guys are all nerds.
And this is the Nerd News Podcast.
Welcome to the Nerd News Podcast. I am your host, Tech D Rob, and it is is it the last? No, second to last Tuesday in August. Nope, October. I'm stupid. We're 2 months ahead of August, but it is October. Hopefully, at least the 24th, or unless you're from the future and you brought it to the past, I'm going to stop talking about that. Let's just start over. Hey, I'm Tech D Rob, host of the Nerd News Podcast, and thanks for joining me. If you're still here after that debacle of an opening, I appreciate you sticking around. But on today's episode of the Nerd News Podcast, I will give you a brief review of Spider-Man 2 based on my playtime, which was extensive, but still not enough to complete the game. So we'll go over that in just a little bit as well. And I'll give you a review of Big Mouth Season 7. I watched the whole season over the weekend. I also caught up on Gen V over the week. So, I've just been knocking them out. Not doing, haven't done Loki yet still, but that's still going on. So maybe I'll give it a couple more weeks. But I will give you reviews of things and tell you of things upcoming on this Nerd News Podcast. Let me first tell you the quick hits. So SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake is making its way to next-gen consoles. That is as of yesterday. Excuse me. City Skylines 2 makes its way to PC today. Just Dance 2024 is available on next-gen consoles and Switch. Today, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 is on next-gen consoles, Switch, and PC today as well. The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is available on PC only today. It was supposed to be available on PS5, but it has been pushed until December 5th now, and that they are saying they just needed to clean some things up, and I think they're trying to avoid a Rise of Kong situation. So we'll see how the PC version goes before we even decide if the PS5 version is worth anything. Stray Souls is available on next-gen, current and next-gen PlayStation and Xbox, along with PC. That is tomorrow. Then Thursday, Battle Cakes is on PC. Dave the Diver is on Switch. Frog Detective: The Entire Mystery is on, current and next-gen PlayStation and Xbox, along with Switch. And then Ghostbusters: Rise of the Ghost Lord is on PlayStation VR 2 and Quest as well today. Thursday. And then Thursday as well, Ghost Runner 2 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, along with PC. Mineko's Night Market is also available on current next-gen PlayStation and then previous-gen Xbox One. World of Horror is on current and next-gen PlayStation consoles along with Switch. And then Friday, the big releases. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S, you have EA Sports UFC 5. And the one that piques my interest the most is Alan Wake 2. That is available Friday as well on only on next-gen consoles along with PC. DVD-wise, this week we have Meg 2: The Trench and Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2, all available on DVD. Digitally, we have The Exorcist Believer. I gave you a review of that a couple weeks ago. And then we have in theaters, finally, after a long time, but no Markiplier in it. He couldn't make it because he's making his own movie. The Five Nights at Freddy's theatrical release with the guy who played PETA in The Hunger Games. And I don't know, it just looks like crap to me. It doesn't look any interesting at all. It's going to be campy, probably. And I mean, I guess if you're into Five Nights at Freddy's, you're probably okay with campy, but it's just not interesting to me. Especially when it's the last weekend before Halloween, you're going to bring this out as a Halloween movie? No, thank you. That's just not how I'm interested. So that is the quick hits for the Nerd News Podcast. When we return on this illustrious podcast, this well-listened, loved, and well-reviewed podcast. Yeah, all of those things are probably true. We will talk about Spider-Man 2. I'll talk about Gen V, which is the Boys spinoff, and a couple huge Magic the Gathering announcements. One happening the day that I record this podcast, and I'm stoked. That's coming up next on the Nerd News Podcast.
At TechD_Rob on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. More Nerd News Podcast next. Follow Follow Tech D Rob on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at TechD_Rob. This is the Nerd News Podcast.
Welcome back to the Nerd News Podcast. I didn't realize just how ragged my beard was looking before I started the podcast. So let me go through my Monday for you. Did work stuff. Was there until 1 p.m. Came home. Got to do a doctor's appointment at 3 to get a CPAP mask. So I will be Darth Vadering it very soon. In my sleep time. I don't know. You know what a CPAP's for. I didn't realize I looked so disheveled there either. They probably assumed I had just woken up or something. I don't know, but that's my Monday, and then I'm doing this podcast here for you. And when this is done, I'm gonna hop on this TV you can't see over there. I'm gonna turn this chair towards it, and I'm gonna play some Spider-Man 2, and I'm going to hopefully finish that game. So typically I leave the reviews until the end of a podcast, but I just mentioned it, so let's go over Spider-Man. The best-selling first-party PlayStation game of all time, I believe, or like the fastest selling, something like that. It sold over 2.5 million copies in less than 24 hours. I purchased it the week before it came out. I pre-ordered it, even though if you ask TJ, that's not a word. And I did the digital version. So disc edition people were having lots of troubles. They were having to download a patch, and it seems that patch did not mesh well with their disc version, and people were having issues nonstop. And some people are blaming the day one patch. But the day one patch also did a whole bunch of stuff to stabilize the game, and that begs the question, do we still need physical releases? Now, I don't know if a company would do this to sabotage digital versions of games. And I say sabotage it simply because I would assume when a company sells a digital version of a game for the same price as a physical version of the game, they make more money on a digital version. That's the only thing I can understand. Now, what does a digital version only hurt? Hurts places like GameStop. Hurts places that sell any other place that sells used games. Because if you go fully digital, they're cut out. Especially until, like, I believe there was a thing where Xbox was going to allow you to sell your license to a game to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? To be able to get some money back, like sell it back, but that never panned out, and that was a long time ago. So I doubt it's even still on the radar, especially with them going all in on the Game Pass. I do believe this is a pipe dream, more so than ever before, simply because of things like the Game Pass. So a digital version only. It hurts box stores. It hurts resellers. It hurts. I think it hurts the consumer if it's the only option, simply because then companies that make hard drives are going to be booming. And you can only have so much space on a hard drive that is easily accessible by a console like a PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 has built-in hard drive space that is faster than any sort of memory card or external hard drive you could hook up. And the only thing that even closely matches that speed is the internal memory that you can purchase with a heatsink and install it yourself. And it's by far the most inaccessible storage expansion I've ever seen in a console. I mean, most of the things are using memory cards. The Xbox Series X and Series S have a little memory card type thing. It's proprietary. It only works on Xboxes, but it is a lot more accessible than this PlayStation 5's SSD, M.2 memory, especially for people who are novices at putting these things in. It's not terribly difficult. I did it myself. But if you are a child with a PlayStation 5 and your parents aren't very well versed in these kinds of things, it could be a difficult situation to expand that memory. And that is the downside to an all digital. Now, the upsides to an all digital: easier. You can buy a game and have it ready for you in an hour. I mean, rather than going to a store, you can just download it. Download speeds are faster now than ever before, so it's not really an issue of speed downloads. And another plus is a plus to me is going to be one of the same things that was a negative, and that is that the producers or the developers of these games are getting more money for their product. If what I believe to be true is true. So the reason that is good is because the more profit a game company makes off of a game, the more likely they are to make new games in the future. And especially if it's a great game and they are rewarded with these profits. That's how games like uh, anything that gets a sequel, it's because the first game sold well or they did like a contract situation for multiple games. So those sequels aren't happening unless this company makes money. And I think it's a good thing if these companies benefit from their hard work. And it's if it's a good game, I, for example, Larian Studios is a studio I've never heard of before Baldur's Gate 3 came out. But Baldur's Gate 3 uh, is a game of a generation to me. There has not ever been a game like this for current consoles, and I think it'll be a long time, maybe even ever. This might be the greatest game of all time, and I mean I could be way off, but I think over time it's a game that will turn out to be either the greatest game of all time or the game that helped spawn the greatest game of all time. I think it's that serious. Now, I don't mind that I gave them a full $60, or maybe it was cheaper. I don't remember on Steam for Baldur's Gate 3. And I've even told people, look, I wish they would make DLC. I would gladly pay them now for DLC. If they're like, hey, we can only make this DLC if you go ahead and give us your $15 now, I'd be like, sold. $15 coming to you. You want me to Venmo it? How do you need it? I got you. I would send it to them immediately. No doubts in my mind that they would make a superior DLC than, say, an EA. Now, this is a game that it prides itself on not charging nickel and diming people for content. And that is also another thing that earns them a lot of goodwill, for the fact that if they did do DLC, you'd know they take care of it and do it right. It's just they've earned that reputation with previous games. Look, just because I'm not familiar with Larian Studios does not mean that Larian Studios didn't kick ass before now. Because I've heard good things, and I actually started playing one of their older titles. I can't remember the name right now, but they've put this kind of love into titles for a long, long time, and finally people are seeing it because it is tied to a huge property, to Dungeons and Dragons, and I think it's great. I know I started this off talking about Spider-Man 2, but let me make my way back there. So Spider-Man 2, I played it for around, I think it was around 20 hours. I talked about it on the regular Ace and TJ show on Monday. I don't remember exactly, and my phone is my current camera, and it's somewhere around there. Uh, Percentage wise, I'm at 51%, and that is not just story, that is also side missions. So I would say I'm closer to the end than I think, probably. And then again, I really don't know. I've fought a lot of bosses, and I feel like I'm working my way to a conclusion, but we'll see. Um, but Spider-Man 2, if you don't know, is about Peter Parker and Miles Morales. Both call each other Spider-Man in the game. So far there are light ties to a Spider-Verse. There are missions where you collect little spider bots that talk about other Spider-Man situations, and it may be hinting at something like that, but I don't know for sure. And they've also spoken already that if people really, really want it, they would consider a Venom spinoff, and I would be all for it. So Spider-Man is the main character. Both versions of Spider-Man are the main characters. But Venom and the Venom symbiote are very, very present from not minute one, but close to. And it is so far an incredible tale, and I look forward to finding out more about this tale. And they've really outdone themselves, considering Spider-Man 1 was such a great game. Spider-Man Miles Morales, also an incredible game, even though it was just DLC that was priced way too high. But either way, this game blew me out of the water. I would say 9 to 9.5 out of 10. Almost a perfect game. If there was a longer story mode, I would probably be inclined to give it 10 out of 10. It's a lot of fun. It's never boring swinging around the city. I know there are fast travels in this game. Never used it once. You do have to unlock them, but I don't care. I don't think I'd use it. I really don't. It's not for me. So the game is a lot of fun, and I would highly recommend it if you have a PlayStation 5. Maybe I'll give you more information about it on next week. Next on my list of things to talk about is there is a Fallout TV show coming, and a Twitter account has just popped up. I think it was Fallout on Prime, or at Fallout on Prime. I'm sorry, an X.com page. But the TV show will be airing April 12th, 2024. Now, before that, we are going to get more Fallout crossovers. We're going to get Fallout Magic the Gathering, some commander set. Some commander decks will be making their way out along with some collector's boosters. That is coming out March 8th, so just a little over a month from the new TV series. You will be able to play Fallout Magic the Gathering, and some of the spoilers have been pretty cool. That's one of the huge things that Magic has done. Here's the other huge thing Magic has done. There is a Marvel crossover with Magic the Gathering. Now, I know a friend of mine was teasing, and he said something about a Star Wars version of Magic the Gathering, like another world type thing they've been doing with all these other, like Doctor Who and all them. But Star Wars has its own trading card game coming out. Marvel has dipped its toes in the trading card game here and there. There was a Marvel Versus. There were other things that are kind of like this, but this is by far the most accessible way for Marvel to get into the trading card game world. And I, for one, am ecstatic. I cannot wait for Marvel X Magic Gathering, however they want to do it, the crossover. It is top of the list for me of Magic the Gathering crossovers. Now, I don't like Doctor Who, but the Doctor Who cards are really, really cool. The Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings is very, very cool. This tops all of them. And I cannot wait for more information, or maybe even some cards. I'm curious if they're going to go with like an art style from comic book type situations, or if they're going to go, from the movies, maybe a mix of both. I'd be interested in either of those situations, and maybe they'll, like I said, maybe they'll do both. That'd be cool. Like if there were different versions with different arts. I'm in though. Sorry, I needed some water. So that is the Magic the Gathering news. Here's some other news and other things. Let's get to it. Paddington in Peru, which is Paddington 3, will hit the UK in late 2024. It is still being worked on. That is obviously well over a year away. And then it'll hit US early 2025, January, they're saying. So about a year and 3 months, you can watch Paddington 3 in the United States. In the movie theater over the weekend, Killers of the Flower Moon was beaten by Eras Tour, the Taylor Swift movie. And I think, I really do think Five Nights at Freddy's will have a tough time beating the Eras Tour concert movie. It's just, people are flocking to it and going in droves. It's doing big numbers, and it will continue to do big numbers. I'm not going to say Taylor Swift fans are a cult, but I'm also not going to say I'm also not going to say they're not a cult. I don't know if I said that right, but you get the point. Maybe they're a cult. I don't know. Next on my list, there are 5 new episodes of Aqua Teen Hunger Force coming in, let's see, what is that? Just over a month, November 26th. The 5 new episodes of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the first in 8 years, will be airing on Adult Swim. Very excited about that. I also am not caught up on Rick and Morty. I started watching the season premiere. There are now 2 episodes if you're interested. The season premiere, there is a character who is called Mr. Poopy Butthole, formerly voiced by Justin Roiland. And look, I know I said what I wanted to say about Justin Roiland last week, but here's the deal. If you're going to replace a man, get somebody who doesn't make the character to be this annoying. I know he's supposed to be a little annoying, but it is unbearably annoying, the new voice actor for Mr. Poopy Butthole, and I had to turn it off because it is all about him this week, that last week, and I could not deal. It was bad, real bad. I don't know if it was purposely that bad to make you not like him more. I don't know, but it was rough. I could not deal. So yeah. What else do we have here? So Gen V is the spin-off of The Boys. It has already been renewed for season 2. And if you've loved The Boys and you thought there's no way they could take this to, as I like to call it, the HNL, a whole nother level. I believe I got that from, I want to say Key and Michael Key, from maybe it was from Mad TV or maybe it was a Key and Peele sketch, but it took it to a whole nother level. One of my favorite quotes from any sketch of all time, to be honest with you. Anyway, I got lost there, but Gen V does not disappoint if you're used to the over-the-top crazy shenanigans that happen on The Boys. Whether it be the very first episode where Huey's girlfriend is obliterated by the speedster. There are other episodes involving shrinking and going inside appendages. I will leave it at that. The Boys is shock value, and Gen V also shock value, but also great story. Both of them are great, and highly recommended if you have Amazon Prime Video. Like I said, I still haven't finished watching Loki, but I did finish watching Big Mouth season 7. The teens are now in high school or going to high school this season. It's like the last bit of 8th grade, the summer, and then the very last episode is them in 9th grade. It is the second to last season. So if you've enjoyed Big Mouth, you'll enjoy this season as well. It's really that simple. What else do I have to talk about? A couple more things. Just 2 more things here. Let me talk about the bad one first. So Rise of Kong was a video game that was released last week. And if you've seen the stills or the videos that include stills, and I'll elaborate in a second, then you know that this game just looks awful. Now, it is a game that was developed in a year, and the company behind it was pressured to get a game out. And they did. They got a game out. And I don't know if it's a situation where they're just trying to cheat people out of money by saying, hey, here's a King Kong game. You're going to love it. Or if they're hoping that on name alone, people will check it out. But it is being hailed as one of the worst games of all time. And there's a video going around of a cutscene where it's Kong meeting some dinosaurs. And one of the dinosaurs that attack him one of them is animated, and then it flips to a still frame picture of this thing on top of an active background. And it's just a still frame. And it makes a noise. And it is ridiculous looking. So, I will just say, don't buy the game. Don't check it out. Leave it alone. Now, the final thing is something I wanted to talk about last week, but it came out after I'd already recorded the podcast. So, if you'll remember X-Men 3, X-Men United, or whatever it's called, it sucked. It was real bad. But Matthew Vaughn was originally attached to direct. And they conned Halle Berry into being in this movie by giving her a different script than everyone else. There was a part about her saving kids in Africa or something, and she was really interested in that part. And then as soon as she signed on, they pulled the rug out and gave her the real script, which was, as you might remember, atrocious. So Matthew Vaughn was not happy with that. That's why he was no longer attached to the project at that point. He found out that's what was happening, and he didn't want to be involved. Now, Matthew Vaughn was in the news last week because he had talked about the sequel to The King's Man that he's working on, whether or not it's happening or not, but he's working on a script, and I'll be there to watch it. Now, Matthew Vaughn, I don't know if he was, I don't know if it cut off there, but I don't know if he was fully involved in X-Men 3 or not, or if he was just like kind of involved at that point. But this is a story from him. Now, whether I believe it or not, yes, I do believe it, because it was a terrible movie. I'm sure Halle Berry could read that script and know it was going to be terrible, so they probably had to finagle it a little bit. So, look, it's funny. Now I'm sure she looks back and laughs, or maybe she's still pissed off about it. I don't know. But when I read the story, I was like, that's incredible, because this movie was just so bad. But anyway, they fixed it when Days of Future Past came out. So, I mean, yeah, I'm okay with it. It was funny. The movie sucked. But yeah, we're back on track. The newer X-Men movies have been really good. Logan, one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. So that is the Nerd News Podcast, and I hope that didn't just peak it when I kind of yelled there. But that is the Nerd News Podcast. I appreciate you checking it out. I appreciate you listening to me ramble about digital versus physical medias and what it means to everyone. But it's a debate that won't go away anytime soon. So I'd love to hear your side of it. I, for one, I think I'm pro-digital. I think overall I'm pro-digital. I'm not 100% sure yet. But I have an Xbox Series S, which is fully digital. You cannot place discs in it. But the new PlayStation Slim version, the one that doesn't have a disc reader, has the option for an add-on to include it to have a disc reader. So we're getting mixed signals from both companies, whether or not it's working or not. But we'll see how it goes. I don't know if you heard my... let's see. Yeah, you definitely heard that Discord sound that time and the time before, even though I changed it. All right, let's wrap this up so you don't hear any more Discord sounds. Thank you for joining me. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, TechD_Rob on all of those platforms. I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate you checking out this Nerd News Podcast. And again, I brought it up last week, but do not forget to check out the new Ace and TJ Family app. It is redone. No, I mean, not even redone. It's brand new from the ground up. We heard what you said, and then somebody who's better at it than us took what you said and made the app better. Look, we didn't put it together simply because it's going to be better if we don't. Let's put it that way. I may be Tech D Rob, but my tech knowledge is limited. I can't make an app. I'm sorry. I just don't. It's not in my DNA or whatever you would call it. It's not for me, but we do have somebody who does, and he did a killer job on it, and the app looks great. You should check it out. It's the Ace and TJ Family app. Go to acetj.com/app, and it'll lead you to where you can get that new app. Again, thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week.
At TechD_Rob on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. More Nerd News Podcast next.